You may have finished with a project and maybe it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. That's why we recycle our clay. And we recycle it through a way called wedging. And what wedging does is it pushes the clay back together, lines it all up, and at the same time pushes all of the air bubbles out. So you want to have clay that doesn't have any air bubbles in it and that is soft, plastic, pliable. You may have to add some water to your scraps of clay just by spraying them a little bit with a spray bottle before you get started. You may need to just wait a little while before it's ready to go. I'm going to show you what I've done in order to get my clay ready to work with. When wedging your clay, you're going to get whatever scraps you have. You may have given up on a pinch pot, or you may have some other project where you've got lots of scraps left over. Well, we don't have to just throw this clay away. It's still plastic, it's still pliable, and I just need to push it back together and make sure that there are no air bubbles inside. So the way that I do this is I usually stand up. I like to wedge standing up because that gives me more force to push down on the clay. And I'm going to start by just kind of pushing the clay together. And then I'm going to start doing something called a ram's head. And what I'm doing is I'm slowly but surely pushing down on the clay and pushing away. So I push down and away. And you'll notice that it's forming kind of a V shape here. So I'm going to keep going with that until I don't see the marks as much as I'm seeing them, although this clay's maybe a little on the dry side. And you can see it's already becoming a little smoother. I'm just going to add a little bit of water here and keep going. Actually, I had a spray bottle. I'm going to spray it, and I'm just going to keep adding pressure and a little bit of water and pushing this clay together. I want to line up the particles in the clay, so it's already looking a lot smoother. Another way that I can do this is by banging it on my surface. This makes a lot of noise, so I don't want to do too much of this, but you can see how it's already kind of pushing things back together. So that's also a way that we do it. We tend to do that in the classroom where the noise isn't quite so bad. But I can check this to see how I'm doing by basically cutting it open. So if you cut it open and you see these holes, you know that you have not finished wedging yet. So we can keep going with the wedging until those holes disappear. I'm just kind of rotating, pushing down and pushing away, pushing down and pushing away. I'm going to stop this because I make too much noise when I do this. Now let's check the clay and see how we've done. Still got lots of holes. I was having trouble wedging the clay, so I tore it up into pieces. You can see how there's still a lot of space in between the clay particles. I tore it into pieces, put it in this plastic container, gave it a really good spray, and put the lid back on. And we're just going to wait for that to absorb that water and come back to it maybe in an hour. Okay, let's check on the clay and see if it's ready for wedging. Yeah, the clay's much softer now. So let's see if we can have a bit more of a successful experience with wedging this clay. Again, I'm going to press it together and do the same thing that I did before, which is creating that ram's head. I just bumped into the camera. Now I'm going to go in the other direction, but again, compressing and pushing away. And it takes a while, you know, a lot of these things with clay, you need to have patience. Because it doesn't happen quickly. There are machines that can do this for us, but for such a small amount of clay, you don't really need a pug mill. All right, let's see how this is looking now. Hopefully it's looking a little better. Yeah, so you can see the holes that I have now are very small. I would probably keep working on this a little bit. I see a little hole here, a little air pocket. But on the whole, this is looking so much better than it was before. Just giving it a chance to absorb some water means that it is a little bit more plastic and a little bit easier to work with. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it back. I'm going to break it into chunks again, and I'm going to put it back for maybe another hour. Let that rehydrate a little more, and then I'll wedge it one more time. Success.